Absolutely. That's how our minds work.
So
as creators.
What do you do? So we were talking about the process and all, going through all the steps. What do you do when you reach the end and it doesn't work?
That's a really good question, man. You have to make it work. You just do.
But some don't. Some don't. Like you write a song, you're super excited about it, you shoot a video for it, you share it with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how much money you dump into it.
Right.
People just aren't feeling the beat. Or
right.
Maybe they don't like the hook or whatever. Who cares? Maybe they hate the video. Whatever it is, you've reached the end of the line and it wasn't the success that you hoped for. Where do you go? What's that like? Because I know that you keep going.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But like, what is that for you? What is that process like?
Depends. Sometimes it can be very devastating. Let's say that, to where you need some time to really like mourn. You know what I mean? You need that grieving period to where like rest in peace.
Right.
And then you move on. You know, and I use that in life as well. It's like certain things can happen in my life that may not be a tragedy, but it's tragic to me. You know what I mean? To where I have to grieve whatever that tragic moment for me is. And then once I grieve it, throw it in the backpack and just kind of, keep it moving and whatnot. But when in projects, depending on how much effort I put into it, the grieving process can take a lot longer than other things.
Right.
To where I need to be secluded and isolated and not only grieve, but also get my thoughts together so I can come back to, get myself in a mental state to where, okay, this won't define me. It will not. It'll just be one of those things that just didn't work out. But there's never been anything that has forced me to say, fuck this shit, I ain't gonna never do it anymore. I may be 6 months before I call you and be like, yo, I got something we can do. It may be 6 months, 9 months, but it's never gotten to the point to where I'm like, well, let me go see what this factory doing.
Right.
It's never gotten to that point, So, but grieving helps, and not just with being creative. That's life too. That's life. I moved out of my house that I lived in for a long time. And there was a moment to where, like, once the move was complete and I was settled into my new place, I shed a couple tears for the loss of that house or the memories that I made in that house with my family and stuff like that. And then once that happened, move into what we're in now and just kind of live in that moment, but sometimes it takes a little bit of grieving to get it off of you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to people that are in this business or used to be in this business and they hit that grieving moment and just quit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's part of it.
Yeah. Brings me closure in a sense, if that makes any sense.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
It may not be the closure that you wanted.
Right.
Right. But you were able to complete it. You did it. And I would hope that you would try to understand why you're grieving to begin with. Like, what put you in that position? Why didn't it work? What steps did you take that could have been better, that landed you at the final product and it didn't move like you wanted it to?
Yep.
you know, and I would rather that, which is why there's only a couple successful people instead of like everyone. But I would rather that you sit back and go, why didn't this work? And then when you tackle that next one, remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because at some point you're going to run into the same wall.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And when are you going to learn to take that step to the right or to the left to avoid it? You know?
Yep.
Like with each film that I do, each project that I tackle, I always try to think of the worst part of it.
Yeah.
You know? Like I'm very pessimistic.
That about you.
I'm very pessimistic.
Yeah.
But it's because I know that it didn't move like I wanted it to. And I want to understand why. Because I don't want that to happen again. Which is, you know, that's part of my growing process that I went through during the pandemic when I'm sitting at home, is going over the steps that I've taken that have landed me to today, and trying to come up with a game plan for the future that doesn't repeat where it's been.
Right.
You know, because failure is going to happen at some point to everyone.
You're right.
And the only way I feel like, to prevent failure to being the only story that you tell is by learning from the past and the things that you did and maybe the things that you didn't do, and then try to not do them again. You know, like we've talked about before, how I tried to create a video style because I was a one-man band, and I wanted my productions to move smoothly, and it was too hard to try to get everything by myself. So I tried to take steps that I could tackle a lot at once. And that was where my visual ideas came from. And there were times that it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
And I would argue with it even if I had somebody there, like, no, this is how we're going to do it. And it would fall on my face. But I knew that. I learned that. And then when I showed up for the next production, it was like, even though I think this shot will save me hours of time and I'll get everything that I need, it didn't work the last time. And it didn't work because of A, B, and C. So I'm probably going to try that shot again, but I'm not going to do it the same way.
Okay.
I'm going to take a different route to get to that shot, because it's not because I have to make this right, meaning that I came up with it and I'm going to do it because of that. It's because it failed, and I know why it failed. And it doesn't mean that this particular shot is a bad shot.
Right.
It just means that I didn't do it correctly. My execution was not where it should have been. So instead of just throwing that shot in the trash and going, I'm not going to use that ever again, I'm going to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And when I get to the following production, I might not use that shot again. But if in the previous shot or the previous project, if I executed it differently and I got a better result, then later down the road, if I feel like I need that shot again, I now know what to do to make it work.
Absolutely.
Instead of just throwing it in the trash. And, you know, I'll probably grieve over it because I wasted everyone's time and it didn't even work, and nobody likes the film anyway. So, but I'm going to remember where those shortcomings were, you know, and when I tackle that next project, I'll just do it differently.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
People grieve differently. I'm not saying you got to sling snot and shit. When I say grieve, you know what I mean? You know, everybody grieves in their own way. But I think grieving over something that didn't work is very therapeutic. It can be very therapeutic. You know, help you cleanse your soul and do that whole business. But in that regard, and what you were talking about, I kind of we're similar in a lot of the things that you mentioned in that, because I approach it the same way too. I think that's why it takes me about 15 days to complete a song, because if that ending don't work or that transition doesn't work, or I may not get that light bulb moment right away. I may have to listen to the record for like 2 or 3 days before it said, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? So I like to take my time in the creative process because of that. Because it'll come to a part in the record And I was like, ugh, I cringe every time I hear it because it's not working the way that I go by feeling. So if it doesn't feel great, and I'm like, ugh, so I'll listen, and then I'll like mix the record down, the stereo, so I can put it in my phone and listen through my headphones. And a lot of times when I do that, when I go outside, sit on the back porch and listen through the headphones, a lot of times that's where I get my aha moment to where I'm like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do and whatnot. But I tend to not want to make records in 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because of that. You know what I mean? Because of that. Yeah. But go back and fix. Right.